Okay, it is 6 o'clock, and so I just want to welcome everyone to Chat with the Chief, and happy February 1st to everyone. And for those of you who are joining us on Zoom, if you have any questions, please go ahead and put those into the chat there, and we will answer those questions. And for those of you who are joining us on Facebook, go ahead and put your questions and comments there, and we'll be watching that throughout the evening and answering those questions as well. And if you have Spanish interpretation needs, we have Lupe here, and Lupe is going to talk with those folks joining us who might need that service.
Buenas tardes a todos. Si usted tiene alguna pregunta para el jefe de policía, por favor, use la función de chat y él con gusto le contestará sus preguntas. And I'll turn it over to you, Chief.
All right, thank you. And Lupe, welcome back. We definitely missed you 2 weeks ago. So have you back.
I'm happy to be back. I missed you too.
I did get some emails on our Chiefs chat. And remember, if you have those, you can send them to Chiefs chat at rpcity.org. I was asked, who is tonight's moderator or host? And so I'm sorry to tell you that you're stuck with me tonight. Unfortunately, you know, the host was unable to make it. You know, life gets in the way sometimes, and we certainly understand that. So I was talking to Jill today, and I said, you know, maybe a host is a bonus, right? So I will try to drudge through tonight and get through this and without a host, but we've done it before, so we can do it again. So one of the questions I did get, and it kind of came up a little bit a couple of weeks ago, was there's a lot of concern about these scooters out there. And so I've been trying to do some research on them. I'm actually going to probably just turn it over to my experts, my traffic guys, to put something together for me, because it depends on what you're talking about. There's the, you know, scooters come in many different ways, but I think we're talking more about the e-scooters, right? Just the electric ones, not the motorized ones. And the e-scooters, there's several different kinds. So I'm not sure if the question is the sit down scooters that they're seeing out there or the stand up scooters that we're seeing a lot of kids on. But I will tell you, it must have been the toy of this holiday season, because since Christmas, I have seen an explosion in these scooters, especially with the kids riding them. So we're going to sit down and we're going to try to, with my traffic sergeant and traffic group, and come out with maybe a frequently asked questions, you know, and answers, so that people have a better understanding about what some of the rules are. You know, if you look up e-scooters require you to actually have a driver's license or a learner's permit to actually drive. But from what I'm seeing is those are more the ones you sit on. It's kind of like I can't think of those Vespas or the little, you know, almost like a mini bike that you sit on. I'm trying to find more stuff in the code about the ones I see these kids, they stand up on. They almost look like the old Razors, but they've got a little electric motor on them. And so I'm trying to find out more about those. One of the things was speed, and those are not to go over 15 miles an hour. That's what I could say, 15 miles an hour. And if they do, then you can be cited for that, because that's too fast. You can't drive them on sidewalks. They've got to be driven on either bike paths or in a bike lane. So I can't tell you that. But when I'm looking at it, we're going to dig deeper to try to get actually the specifics on the scooters and the stand-up scooters and what we can do. And then there's some helmet requirements too. Anybody under 18 years old is required to wear a helmet when they're on there. I can tell you that. But that's a great question. That came in from a young lady named Amanda. So thank you for that question. And I promise you that we will put together a fact sheet, FAQ sheet, and we will get it out on our website, and we'll get it into, probably try to get it to distribute it to the schools, because I'm sure that's where most of them are being written, and get it out to the parents, because I know that you did mention that it's not just your concern, it's other concerned parents. So let us put that together for you, and we'll get to the information you need. If you have any other questions, please write back in. I actually have the Chiefs chat open right now on there. So
so there was a question, Facebook, and what about the creek paths? Is that okay? Or is that something that you're going to include, whenever you're clarifying everything? Would that be part of it?
That's a great question, because you can ride them, from what I'm seeing, you can ride them on bike paths. And they talk about the different schedule class of bike paths that you can ride them on. And so I would need to check, because I do know bikes are allowed on the creek path. It's not a sidewalk, so it wouldn't qualify there, but need to figure out what the purpose of those paths are. Are they technically bike paths? Because if so, they may be allowed on there. But I definitely add that to my fact sheet.
To-do list.
The to-do list, yes. I have not enough to do, so I will add that to the let's see. Matthew asked a question, and I cannot believe this. He says that around 2 a.m. in certain areas around Camino Colegio and M sections, people are racing and they have loud cars. Amazing.
Does not happen here.
Yes. So for one thing, Matthew, we will increase our patrols there. I've said it before in this forum. We definitely don't have a crystal ball, and when we're sitting in briefing or we're putting our patrol plans together, we're looking at where have problems been. We look at statistics and stuff, but really without the public calling in and saying, hey, we're having a problem here, we don't always know. So these emails, you're never bothering us. They are helpful to us because they actually help us focus our patrols. So now I know that we need to do a little bit more stuff there. And I don't know who is trying to call me, but and take care of that. So let me just say something that about this, because I'm seeing talking about the donuts and the intersection. A while back, I talked about a process that we had learned about through the DA's office in addressing some of the sideshow stuff that's going on. And it's been used around the county. We hadn't really had a huge problem with it. We did hear of one sideshow that was apparently moving from Santa Rosa to Rohnert Park. We put out a request for assistance. We reached out to the task force, and we saturated the town really quickly, and nothing came of it. It was a really calm event. So we're aware of that. But one of these other processes we have in place is search warrants, or actually they're tow warrants is what they are. And we just completed our first one. We had a person call in. We got out there. The person had just left, but the caller had really good video. They got video of the call, of the license plate, and actually there was enough on the video to ID the driver. So because of that, we were able to write up a complaint and send it to the DA's office to get a warrant for the driver for the sideshow. But in addition, we have been able to get a warrant for the car. So we're going after these people who want to come in here. We're not going to get every one of them, but when we have the proper information we need, we will go after it. We will, and so I'm excited about the fact that and this is one of our newer officers who took this, had the initiative to research this and write the warrant and get it. So what that warrant will allow us to do is, once it's signed by a judge, is anywhere we see that car, whether it's on the street or in your driveway, we'll go hook it up to a tow truck, and we're going to keep it for 30 days. So
people are happy with that. There's some applause on Facebook.
It's so dangerous. One when I'm watching the news and I'm seeing some of these bigger cities, San Jose, Oakland,
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that those actual sideshows that are going on where people are hanging out the window and the cars are coming within inches of the crowd, that is so dangerous, right? And those people want to be there, right? They're putting themselves in harm's way. Mm-hmm. That's a choice they're making, but it's also dangerous to the surrounding area, right? It's dangerous to the people in the neighborhood. It's dangerous to just a bystander walking by. Someone drives into that. So it's not something we're going to tolerate around here. And, emails like this, letting me know where some of these problems are so we can actually target it, really help. So yes, you will, Matthew, you will see a lot more patrol out between Bodway and Mitchell. We'll also keep an eye on that stop sign. I know where you're talking about, where it was a 4-way stop, but they blocked that entrance off to the school. And so now it's a 3-way stop. And 25% less stop signs. People think that's 25% less stopping, I think. So we can certainly take care of that. And then with the speed, I will tell you that one of our sergeants is going to school next week to become an instructor in LIDAR and radar, which is what we use for speed, right? Speed enforcement. And normally we have to wait for a class to come around and try to get an individual into the class. They might have 1 spot, 2 spots, and so getting people trained, you're kind of at the mercy of when these classes come up. But by getting our sergeant in a LIDAR instructor school, we're going to be able to bring him back and then start we'll put a whole class of our people in there and get everybody trained. So those are the little things we're trying to do to address some of the traffic problems. But I did, there's some survey results coming in. The survey's not done. It hasn't been out for all that long, but I've seen, and I know that is a concern of our community, traffic. So believe me, it's on my mind. I think about it all the time, and we're trying to find ways to address it. One of the ways that we're addressing it, which is kind of an outside the box idea we came up with, was when we did our last selection for motor officer, we had 2 really good candidates. In fact, we had a couple more candidates, but after I selected, that's the hardest thing to do, right? I got one spot and I got a bunch of people that want that spot. And so we sent one to motor school, and then to try to enhance what we're doing without pulling from patrol, we actually created what we call a patrol motor spot. So we have actually we sent the other candidate to motor school, and he successfully passed. And so one of the motors you'll see out there now is actually assigned to the patrol division. He actually answers calls, and he does the same thing. He just does it on a motor, so that when he's not answering calls, his priority is traffic, right? When you're on patrol and you're not answering calls, your priority is kind of getting through the neighborhood, being highly visible, right? Getting through your business areas. With him, we said, when you're not answering calls, we want you in an intersection. We want you running, traffic enforcement, speed enforcement. So he's been out on it about 2 weeks now, and we're already seeing an increase in enforcement. So that was just one of the other things we did to try to help with this traffic problem. I always said if people would just follow the law, we wouldn't have a traffic problem. But unfortunately, they don't drive. They don't drive once they get their license, like they did the day they were sitting with the instructor. They forget some of those rules. So if just encourage your kids as they're coming up to get their license, how important it is to continue to drive safe. Mm-hmm. So, okay, this one came in a while ago, probably just after our last chat. So they're wanting to know, there are a lot of questions about the Roberts Lake Road encampment. And they wanted to know how many individual families that were given shelter when Rohnert Park worked to vacate the park and ride are still in accommodations. What is the success rate for finding housing? And what monetary cost was incurred by City of Rohnert Park? So actually that phone call that was coming in, I had forwarded this to members of the homeless task force at City Hall. Actually, the two people who run this department or this program, to get those exact answers, because I don't want to give you misinformation. I was surprised when we moved people from the park and ride out of the park and ride that day. The number was about half. I do remember about half the people did accept shelter. And I have not gotten an exact number of how many people are back out. I can tell you that and I'll get you the information. We'll put it out. What I can tell you is I'm out there at least 3 days a week, right? I'm driving by there. I know most of those people there. I know the people we housed. I'm not seeing the people we housed back out there. If I was, that encampment would be a lot bigger. And I do know that since then, we have housed a number of other people. And I know that because a couple of them were chronic and we had never been able to get them housed before. And two of the people we housed have made a big difference, because they were a couple of individuals who went out through the night and salvaged items to bring back. And so I do know that those two are now in housing. And I want to say probably roughly 8 to 10 since moving that encampment, we've gotten housed. So, it's a tough situation. It's so tough. There's not housing and there's not shelters, right? But every time we can get a shelter bed, we go out and we offer it. We offered some today. And I'm sure people are seeing what's going on out there. People are moving back into that park and ride, right? And we fenced it and we're managing it, I would say. If you have questions, you can always let us know what your questions are about them. But
someone was asking about the under the freeway. They're seeing more folks there. Is that anything you can talk about?
I can. So anybody who watched the council meeting last week, that was actually a discussion. It was a discussion on basically trash and debris, right? People were talking about the underpasses, especially right there. I think it's on a golf course right there. There's people, and I guess where, technically the underpass, the freeway is Caltrans, right? But we also know that we're not going to get Caltrans to come and clean it up. It's not going to happen. And so, we're actually have been in discussion since last council meeting on how to address that. And, just understanding that we may have to take on the responsibility to do it, because when people drive by, they don't know that that's Caltrans. They just know that they're in the city of Rohnert Park and the trash is in the city of Rohnert Park. And so it appears that Rohnert Park is turning a blind eye. And we're certainly not. The first thing to do is call Caltrans and have them refuse to do it and then go us do it. But so we are right now working, and I know the exact place you're talking about. It's our intention to get in there and get that cleaned up and try to move them out of there and into housing. That's the idea. It's really hard to move them when we don't have a place for them. But we are going to offer them some services to try to get them out so we can clean that up. It looks horrible. And like I said, people don't drive by and go, oh, that's not Rohnert Park, that's Caltrans. People go by and look what Rohnert Park looks like. And it's a poor reflection on us and our community. And so we definitely want to try to work to get that cleaned up.
Yeah, people feel the loss or expressing concerns as far as, fishing there at Roberts Lake and some of the, use of that area for the residents. And so I think people recognize what the city's trying to do.
Yeah, if they were out there today, they would have witnessed an enormous amount of city staff. I had a sergeant and 2 CSOs assigned there most of the day. I know our senior code enforcement officer was there. Emily, our homeless outreach, was there. We had the entire host team out there, and we had unsheltered friends out there, just trying to, one, get them off of that stuff, the side of the road, right? That's just dangerous. It's dangerous for them, and it's dangerous for drivers, and it's dangerous for bicycle riders. And so just trying to get them into a safer environment, but still respecting the you know, the look of the community. So as you saw, we fenced it, we put the screening around it. We're not trying to hide anybody, but we're also trying to make it so when people drive by, it's not something, the first thing they see, or it's not something they notice. And, you know, a lot of people said, well, you know, you guys just wasted a lot of time moving them out of there just to move them back. If I was in their shoes, I'd probably agree with that. But I would say we are still learning as we're going. We are trying to get better. We are trying to get better at this. And like every city learning, trying to stay out of injunctions, trying to stay out of lawsuits. And so when we did that big move to move them out of Roberts Lake Park and Ride, one, we put together some really good processes. We were able to work through our city attorney's office and put together some processes that have stood to this time. So that was a great thing that came out of it. The other thing that came out of it is we were able to house about half of the people that were in there. So that's another good thing that came out of it, because it kind of, it provided us the ability to have all these shelter beds in our pocket and walk into there and say, you have to take a shelter bed or you got to leave, right? So we got about half the people in shelter that day. The other thing it did was as we watched this thing grow on Roberts Lake Road and realized, okay, this is not any better, but if we move them back in there, we can do it in more of a controlled manner and not let it be chaos and have rules and you know, establish practices in there, and get the services out front, not try to come in after it's established and get the services, right? So yes, deja vu, they are right back in Roberts Lake Park and Ride, but you know what? They're under a lot better circumstances. You know, we're providing them with, I know that there are going to be some sanitary facilities coming in out there. We're trying to get a plan for trash. So, you know, all in all, I do think that moving them out, and even though I think we learned a lot. We established some good practices. We got some people into housing. We built a lot of trust up there, which is why we've been able to keep getting people in housing. And we'll continue to work on it every day. So
someone was asking, you know, if it's kind of successful, how it's kind of, you're putting up the privacy around it. Someone's asking in another area where there's an encampment in the city, if the city might be entertaining this approach at other locations where there's kind of some privacy, so some of the neighborhoods aren't seeing, you know, some of it as well. Is this an approach that might go further, different places in the city?
That's a great question. You know, we have two different entities that are trying to address homelessness in the city. We have the Homeless Task Force, which is made up of members from every department in the city. I have a lieutenant and a sergeant assigned to it, and a CSO. City Hall has people assigned to it. Public Works, right? We're all working together, and that's kind of where this idea was born out of. And then we have the Homeless Roundtable, which is a community-based group, which is some of the things that have been born out of that is the Unsheltered Friends Outreach Group, right? So the question you're asking about, would this be something we use in other places? That is something that the task force certainly can discuss. You know, we try to be really careful about creating a sanctioned encampment, right? This was necessary out there because of the dangerous condition. So that's why we moved this way. But I certainly understand. I get calls every day about an encampment popping up in a neighborhood or behind a sound wall, you know, or someone parking their motorhome out for too long. And so, you know, really those people, we're this encampment got huge overnight. I mean, it was popped up and it was there and just was right. The other encampments, we try to get in there and we try to work with the individuals because they're smaller numbers and get them into shelters or housing or something. But it's certainly an idea that can be looked at. If you can send a note to the Chiefs chat at rpcity.org. Let me know where this one is. I do know there's a couple. I just want to make sure I'm thinking of the right one, so I can let the task force know.
Yeah, I think they put specifics in Facebook, so we'll get it from there.
Okay.
Yeah. And then someone's asking as well, as like the folks who are here, do we know if they're people who have lived in Rohnert Park previously? Are they Rohnert Park residents, or are you in your communication getting information from where these, you know, folks are coming from, or why the circumstances are what they are?
Yeah, I listened to Garcia from City Hall, who's been working on this for quite a while, give a talk a while back, and I was surprised by the high percentage of our homeless. They are from Rohnert Park. Mm-hmm. They moved here and they became homeless. They grew up here, became homeless. And there are a percentage of people who they're transient, right? They move, go to Santa Rosa, Petaluma, Rohnert Park, right? But for the most part, our individuals who are homeless here I can tell you they're almost all from Sonoma County, but a very high number are actually from Rohnert Park. So it was interesting today when I was out at the park and ride. One of the ladies from Untitled Friends, she said, "Oh, are you going to be here for a few minutes?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "There's a gentleman who was born and raised in Rohnert Park, who I'd like to introduce you to." And I said, "Sure." So I got to talking to this gentleman. He's probably my age, and maybe not that old, but he's up there. And I found out that he was born in Rohnert Park his parents, I want to say he was born in 62, or his parents moved here in 62 and had the third house in Rohnert Park.
Wow.
For the owners of the third house built in Rohnert Park. And he's experiencing homelessness now. And he was out there at Roberts Lake. He said he has lived in Rohnert Park his entire life, right? And, you know, we talked about how he got there. And, he talked to me about decisions he had made in his life. And, you know, that it's a lifetime of decisions that he's where he's at. Very polite, very well spoken, just, that's where he is right now in life. But, and I hear a lot about when I get out and talk to these individuals, I hearing the same story. Mm-hmm. I graduated high school here, I graduated and went to college, and it's usually the same story too, that based on decisions they've made in their life, put them in the situation, but they are Rohnert Park people. Mm-hmm. And if they're not Rohnert Park people, they are almost certainly Sonoma County people. And, and this is what they know. So mm-hmm. It's a sad event. And, a lot of times we look at homelessness and we look at it in the big picture, right? We look at Roberts Lake Road and we see this enormous encampment, and that's what we see. We see an enormous encampment with a bunch of homeless people, right? So when you look at it that way, it's easy to say, well, why don't we just move them along, or why don't we get rid of that, right? And I'm not blaming anybody for saying that, because that's what that image portrays. But when you step back and you think about it, that is an encampment of a lot of individual people with a lot of different stories that put them in that situation. And when you start hearing their stories, you want to help them, right? And that's why it's so important to get people who want to come and join the roundtable, who want to go out and just take one person under your wing and try to help get them built up again. Because
I was going to say, yeah. I was going to agree with you. I think the homeless task force and or that roundtable and joining that for those folks that really want to kind of understand or help, the city's offering that.
Yeah, exactly. So, that there's roundtables and ours kind of grew out of the idea of these homeless roundtables. And a lot of these roundtables have what they call navigators. And the navigator's job is they go out and they introduce themselves to a couple people. And then that's their job, those two people, right? And they might bring them food. They might, hey, I need some socks. They might bring them socks. And they start building a rapport and with these individuals. And then pretty soon they start saying, hey, what do you need to get, do you have any benefits out there that you're not getting? You start working towards that. What do are you interested in a job? What would you like to do? And then they start building. But if you just walk up there and say, hey, here's some food, let me take you to a shelter, it's not going to work. You have to spend time building their trust. Because individuals who have experienced homelessness for any period of time have been victimized, they have been robbed, they have been assaulted, and their trust of other people starts going down, and everything else, they're on guard, everything else starts going up. And so you got to break through that, and it takes time. And we're seeing it now because we've spent so much time out there. That's why we're starting to get people into housing. They're starting to trust us. They've been promised a lot of stuff. They've been promised housing before. They've been promised food vouchers, and it never came. And so pretty soon everything just looks like an empty promise. So we are actually hitting this homeless issue by a lot of different ways, right? We're trying to, for the community, we've got to do something about the encampments, so it's not affecting the community. But on the other hand, we also have to do something to get these people out of homelessness so they're not a problem, right? They're not hurting the community. So it's an ongoing battle. I'll tell you, anybody got an idea, you call me. Because you may be sitting on the golden ticket out there. You may know how to handle this, and there's no one on that homeless task force that think they have all the answers.
Yeah,
we would love some genius to write us and tell us how to do this. But you gotta know the rules, right? We can't just pick them up and move them somewhere, right? We gotta take care of them.
So a lot of folks are kind of mentioning about the dog park right now, and then the unsafe conditions there for folks to be able to use it. Is there anything happening to kind of clean and make sure that area is safe for the residents and animals to be able to use the park again and not worry about things that are left behind?
Yeah, I have a little dog who drives me crazy, but he's part of our family, and our dog has to go for a walk every night. And at least once or twice a weekend, we take him to the dog park because we want to do that. And so it's upsetting to me to think that we have this feature out there. People don't feel they can use it, right? So one of the things we're doing over in the park and ride is we are bringing in toilets, right? We're bringing in the
facilities, porta potties.
Because people need a place to go to the bathroom. I mean, they do, right? And we know that if you don't give them a place, they will find a place. And that's just unsanitary, it's unsafe, and it's really uncalled for, really. The other thing we're putting up there is sharps containers, right? We are not encouraging drug use. That's not what we're doing. But we're also not out there, in everybody's tent 24 hours a day to tell them no. So we want to make sure that if there's going to be needles or anything, you usually have a safe place to put them. So we're doing those things inside the facility to try to mitigate those problems. And then, you know, I don't know that Public Works it hasn't been on a task force meeting that I've had, but I'll ask them. But I have to believe that we plan on going out there and just cleaning up that area, cleaning up the park, because once we get people moved into the park and ride and they have their individual spaces in there, there's really no need to go over to the park and destroy that area anymore. So yes, I will pass it on to the task force that this question was asked. I think it's a great question. We want our dog park back. And I'll see where we can go on that. And I'll work with the Public Works Director too, Vanessa, on that to see what we can do. Great question. Thank you.
On a different note, someone was asking about the State Farm property and wanting to know if you had any type of an update on what's happening with that property and anything you can shed a light on.
We should have a chat with the city manager.
Yes.
Or chat with the development services. So I do know that there have been some recent discussions about trying to move forward with that property. I know there was I think the original owner passed away. And so, you know, it went to his children, and I think the children are looking maybe for someone to come in and take over that original plan or move on that plan. I can tell you that the city manager is very active in that. He's constantly having phone calls and discussions about it, trying to get it kickstarted again. So I don't know exactly where it is, but I do know it is on the city manager's plate. I believe it is also one of the council priorities. So I do know it's being looked at and worked on all the time. And there's nobody more who would love to see that up than me. When I was testing for this job and I was researching Rohnert Park, I was actually the acting city manager or interim city manager in the city I came from. And so I was learning about this development. And one of the things we were trying to put together over there was a downtown. And I found out, I mean, how hard it was to get vendors and to get, what do they call it? Get that first big, like a Safeway anchor store in there, yeah. Right? So long ago, I can't even remember the terms, but you know, to get that in there so you can start building around it. And I'm like, but just ask Safeway, they'll come, or right. So I was going through that myself, and then I start researching Rohnert Park, and I'm watching a city council meeting where they're approving this downtown, and I'm thinking, that's awesome. I get to come and work in a community that's building a new downtown, and I don't have to be the city manager overseeing it. And so I would love for that thing to be built before I leave. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. But you know, it's that pretty much a weekly conversation at our staff meetings. Also, where are we on it? What's going on it? Or hey, the weeds are growing on it. We need to get, you know, they need to come out and take care of that because it still is in the center of our city and we want it maintained. So I will ask City Hall if they can maybe put something out on their website, kind of tell everybody where it is, or maybe do one of the community voice columns on it so everybody knows.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I'm gonna write that one down because.
Well, and I think, you know, they've talked about it before. It's like, you know, in the past, office space and restaurants and shopping were all kind of a little bit of a guarantee, you know, that, you know, any one of those combinations would be something that would draw people in, but our society's shifted. And so it's not necessarily, you know, a guarantee of knowing how much office space you need or what restaurants and small businesses and how folks are doing. So it's changing times. And so it makes sense. And then supplies, you know, a lot of the windows are delayed and manufacturing are, you know, is delayed right now. I've heard, so that probably doesn't help the situation.
Exactly. So, I mean, I read when I have to, but I read. And, you know, I was reading an article on the fact that brick and mortars are really there's not a lot of new brick and mortar going in, right? Everybody, you get stuff delivered right to your door, right? You can sit on the comfort of your couch. You can jump on a website, search a website, look at reviews, click a button, and 2 days later, it arrives at your front door. And people are moving away so much away from getting up and driving and going to a store that companies aren't really big on investing in brick and mortar store. So I know that that's an issue, and but I think it's a great location. It's got a lot of potential. So I know that we'll figure out something. May have to adjust some things, but we'll figure out a use for that. But I just can't wait till they start breaking ground. There's nothing more exciting than that, right?
Yeah, no, I thought something was going to go in there a long time ago. So yeah, I was looking forward to it, and we had some great momentum for a while there. So it's too bad that didn't happen.
Yes.
But, yeah. So there's different comments and questions regarding the homeless that have continued on. So maybe we can respond to some of those questions on Facebook. Later on. Tomorrow or during the week, we can kind of address some of those, but some of the folks are just kind of making comments about, other options. So
it's a tough situation.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't change the problem, and it doesn't make it go away. And I'm certainly not minimizing it. But every city is dealing with it.
Yeah.
Every city has it. I hear people say, I'm leaving Rohnert Park, because of the homeless. And I tell them, I say, well, when you land in that place that doesn't have them, tell me, because I might move there myself. But I'm not sure you're going to find that city who doesn't have it. I drive through a couple cities to get home, and it's everywhere. So we're trying to manage it, but yeah, we do need solutions.
And so we're moving forward with the shelter. Then that's moving forward. The grant was successful, so we do have something on the horizon that will.
Yeah, that's the that money that came in through the federal government, through the state, and we are building. I want to say like 60 units.
Yeah,
60 units over there. And it's not a shelter, because I've had a couple people ask me about that. You're building a shelter over there. It's like, no, shelter's different. We're building a transitional housing project over there, where people will have their own little pod or their own little area that's theirs. It's not a shelter where you share the room with someone or you're in congregate. It's 60 or 62 individual places that we put you in. There are services wrapped around it, and we're trying to take you from where you are and transition you, get you back into good living environment, and so you can transition out of that into permanent housing, right? So then we can bring somebody else in that transitional housing area. So yeah, and we're kind of modeling it after the Mountain View, I believe, that project, which is a very clean and nicely run project. So, I know people have concerns about it. It's right next to the fire station. We just built this big, beautiful fire station. And, of course, when, everyone heard that they're building a homeless shelter next to the fire station, but it's a profession. It's going to be a well-run aesthetic place where everybody has their own individual place, their showers, their bathrooms, right? And the most important thing is their services, so that we can get the people out of where they are right now and build them up and get them into permanent housing so they can actually start rebuilding their lives. Mm-hmm. And that's coming. And that has some pretty strict timelines on building. So that's not going to be stretched out. I think that thing will go up pretty quick.
So just a lot of different comments popping in. Can we please have extra patrol in Target parking lot? let's see. For shoppers during daytime hours, is that something that public safety would do for the Target parking lot?
Well, I mean, we definitely get in and through our businesses. That's one of the patrol duties. So yeah, I can let them know that Target's asking for any specific. I mean, were they specific?
It just said daytime hours. So I'm assuming that there's some folks maybe in the parking lot that they're not comfortable going back and forth to their cars, and maybe have more of a law enforcement presence in the parking lot.
Yeah, we can turn that on. Absolutely, we can do that. So, oh, go ahead.
As someone else had made a comment, just concerned about the funding for the transitional center, how it's state funded, but once the state funds stop, is Rohnert Park going to be prepared to kind of continue, or is that something that's always kind of in discussion?
So that was definitely, if you go back, I'm not trying to think of what October, maybe September, October, November, were the council meetings where these were discussed. There's a full council agenda on it, and I know that the ongoing funding was discussed in there, because of course we knew that'd be a question of the council. So I know the staff report did address what the funding would be and how we would maintain it and what the estimated costs would be. I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can tell you that was a discussion. And if you're able to go back and pull up the council meeting, there's a full agenda report on that. I can try to get that information tomorrow and maybe throw it out on the website, but if I don't, it is there. So, yeah.
And then this has come up a few times as far as if someone's offered their transitional housing, but then they refuse, what is the response going to be for those that are declining what's being offered?
So the Boise decision basically in a nutshell says that if you want to move somebody from public property, right, in order to do that, you have to have accommodations for them. So you have to be able to offer a shelter bed. Mm-hmm. So the problem is a lot of times we don't have a shelter bed to offer, right? So when we get them, we try to go out there and say, hey, we got a shelter bed available for you. Will you take it? If they take it, no problem. We get them up and we get them to the shelter, and that solves that problem. If they refuse the shelter bed, then we can remove them from public property, because we've offered it, they turned it down. Now you're in violation of our camping ordinance. You're in violation of a lot of other things. Mm-hmm. But until we have that shelter bed to offer them and allow them to turn down, we can't move them. That's why a lot of times you'll see us out there cleaning up around them, because we can clean up, right? We can post it and say we're coming back in here in 72 hours, and anything that is trash or left out will be removed. But we can't remove them unless we have a shelter bed for them. So that I hope that answers the question.
Sure. I think so. Mm-hmm.
So while you're reading there, I will talk about a couple other things. I don't know if people watch, but last Tuesday, when I'm not doing this, I'm at council meetings. So my Tuesdays are pretty busy. But last Tuesday, I did go in front of council, and I returned, city manager and I returned with our findings from our community, the events we held in the community, to talk about the 9 recommendations we made for police, community relations, and accountability. And I'm excited, I mean, we're moving forward on everything, but one of the things I'm excited to talk about is we are putting together the proposal or the actual process for the community's public safety roundtable. And so, if you're interested, in being a member of that, please keep an eye out. We will be pushing out a lot of information, letting you know when it comes out. Check, we'll put it out on Nixle, Nextdoor, social media. We'll put it out everywhere we can in the paper, to let you know, hey, this is how, if you're interested, this is how you apply. This is where you go. So kind of keep an eye out for that. But the idea behind the roundtable is to bring people from all of our different diverse groups in the community into the public safety building, maybe quarterly, once every other month, once a month, whatever we feel we need to do, to have a conversation just like we're doing right now, so that you can tell me where we might be missing the mark, what kind of how we can maybe help your community, help your diverse community a little better, right? Because what I've learned is we may think we're getting to everybody out there, we're just not. We're not getting to everybody, and the main reason is because I don't know the method in which to do it. So I want people to come in and tell me how, right? Well, if you do this or you work with this group or whatever, or these are some things we'd like to see from the public safety department. We're gonna keep working to just keep getting better, and we're gonna do that. One of the ways we're gonna do that is through the this community's public safety roundtable. So I look forward to it. I hope people will put in for it and try it. The other thing that's pretty exciting is we brought back our civilian academy, which actually starts tomorrow, first day, 8 weeks, 1 day a week for 8 weeks. And so we have 20 individuals who will be going through the first civilian academy in probably about 4 years. Wow. So we're excited about that. Please keep your eye out. We'll have another one. Hopefully these 20 will go out and tell 100 people each, and then we'll have even more next time. So that's exciting. The city did approve independent police auditor, Michael Janinko. And so I know we're working through that to get him on board. He will not work for me. He will not work for the city manager. He will work for the city attorney, but he will come in certain times of the year, and he will check to make sure I'm doing my job. When we get a citizen complaint, we have processes and procedures that we use to investigate that complaint. And the independent auditor is going to come in and make sure that I am doing that right and that I'm following my own policies and practices. And then he is going to report that out to the council, and he is going to, we will post that report on the website. So these are just all part of that police accountability that we're going through. We're also putting together a public safety calendar so people will know in advance, like is public safety speaking at the council meeting? What are they talking about tonight? So if you're interested, you won't be caught by surprise. And then of course, everyone knows the SAFE team is up and running. We are looking at expanding the SAFE team probably within, I was told either the week of the 14th or the week of the 21st, as soon as they get staffing up. But we're looking at going to 18 hours a day. It's been a very successful program. We've been 12 hours, 7 days a week for 12 hours, but we're going to expand it. It'll be 7 days a week, 9 a.m. to 3 a.m. So we're excited about that. That's another one of the police community relations and accountability things that we did. We feel if we're sending the right people to the right calls, we'll be doing it better. Our resilience, our wellness training will continue. If you're interested in looking, you can go on the last council meeting, which was January 25th, I believe. That's when I did the report. And in the agenda item, if you go down to the police accountability and you click on the agenda item and you want to know what our officers have been doing as far as training, there is a list there that I was extremely impressed with looking. My training coordinator, Rebecca, and training manager, Sergeant Mike Worley, and Lieutenant Andrew Smith they did an amazing job last year and really expanded our training, what we're doing, and really taken to heart that purposeful training that we talked about. Don't just train to train, train with a purpose. So yeah, I encourage you to go read the report and just see what we're doing. We are doing everything we can to open transparency with our community and be available. We are, I don't know if you remember my host last week or 2 weeks ago, Michael London from SSU, from the MSI Association. I met with him today. We've had several phone calls since, and we are actually getting together on February 10th. And we're going to do a big barbecue, and we are going to play some basketball and some other games. and public safety is going to spend a day and the afternoon getting to know that great group of individuals who I was introduced to 2 weeks ago. So I'm really excited about that. And then the other thing I want to say is, if you want to be a host on this platform, I was going to say on this show, like I'm Dr. Phil here. If you want to be a host, let me know. I'm always looking for a host, right? And it's always nice to have a backup, like tonight. When my host had to kind of back out, so I didn't have a backup. So let me know. You get to put me in the hot seat. I'm fine with that. I look forward to it. But just send a note to the Chiefs chat at rpcity.org, and I will give you I'll email you back or a phone call, whatever, and we'll set you up for one of my chats coming up. As I said, we're going to continue doing these. Try to make sure we're doing them every first and third Tuesday. Tuesday, and I look forward to them. So let me know. Any more questions?
Well, we're almost out of time, and another question that kind of keeps coming up, ride-alongs. Where are we at with those?
As soon you're talking to the wrong person, you got to talk to Gavin Newsom, right? You got to tell Gavin to loosen up some of these rules, and so we can start doing that. But yeah, we're as soon as restrictions will allow me to put people outside this agency in the cars, we are going to open up our ride-along program. It's one of I love the ride-along program. I had an individual in the car today, and while we were traveling to a meeting, and they said, wow, it's much different when you're in the car, and you're seeing things, and also seeing how people are reacting to the car. I said, yeah. I said, I wish everybody could experience it. One, because I think it's a great experience, but two, it just gives you a new perspective, right? So that question, that person keeps being put off with this answer.
Yes.
But I will probably, as soon as we open it up, I expect them to be the first to apply.
A lot of people are thanking you for doing the chat and saying that you're always in the hot seat, Chief. You're doing a great job. So people are thanking you for doing these. So that's great.
Good. I can't wait to do more in person. So one of my detectives, we have the coffee with a cop, which that's I love that too. But he came up with the idea, so he's putting it together. So keep an eye out. He wants to do a froyo with the popo. So that's his idea. So we're going to do some frozen yogurt here soon, little community event, and get a bunch of us out there. So you just don't have to talk to me. But yeah, hey, thank you everybody for tuning in, giving up an hour of your night tonight. And I will see you in 2 weeks.
All right.
All right.
Good night.